How are you guys? Thanks for showing up. Hey, man. How are you, bro?
How's Texas treating you guys?
Awesome.
Lovely.
Lovely. Ooh, and I've got stories. Well, you guys have stories we're going to get into a little bit, but let's talk about your new album. It is amazing. We are digging it. How long did it take you guys to record that?
You know, it's really weird. It's like a really quick process with this band. I guess we got together in New York for about a week, 10 days, did a bunch of writing, all of us with Marty, our producer. Then we went back down to Nashville to Marty's studio, and other than a couple days that he took off, he has shows. Marty also plays guitar for Steven Tyler's solo band. So other than the time that we took off, I think it took us about 5 weeks to do everything.
Roughly, yeah.
And it just came out in April, right?
Yes.
And how are the fans loving it? Burn it down, baby. Oh, whatever.
I think that the first response is, it's like we were talking earlier, it's a little heavier. And I think that was a conscious effort to kind of get into another area, maybe heavy a little bit, you know. And what happened there is we were all there. We were checking out some pedals. And that began the whole process. You know, Marty came in and said, yeah, that's a riff, man. Let's go this way. And that's how it is. The recording process, you never know where it's going to take you.
So just kind of playing around at first.
It's a collaborative process.
Yeah.
We all write collectively in the room together.
And you guys are such a great super group. I mean, you guys have been in
We like
every band, I think.
We
like
don't
soup.
like the word super.
Oh, you
we
don't?
just do soup.
we like soup.
We're old now, so we just do soup.
Well,
And is
Dave-
chili a soup?
It is.
In Texas,
in Texas,
it is.
it is. Have you guys had any good Mexican food yet?
No, we're talking about it. School nights are not recommended for singers and all that because it's kind of heavy.
Yeah.
So we kind of wait. We kind of wait for an off night to kind of like indulge and go bananas, you know. But we're hoping. To
Well, so you guys are playing Trees tonight.
Yes.
And so maybe we all should go get Mexican food after.
Okay, it's a deal.
Still school night.
We'll hold you to it.
Yes. Hey, and so David, real quick, you started the Dead Daisies, and so kind of tell people the concept because you have had different, musicians in and out of the band.
Well, the Dead Daisies started in Australia. I started it with a singer from Australia. His name's John Stevens, and we just got together, wrote a bunch of songs, and decided to record it. And we didn't have a band, and we liked what we did and wanted to put a band together. And through one thing and another, I met Marco. Actually, we were playing. Opening for Thin Lizzy, and that's where I met Marco, and through Marco we met the other people. But the type of band this is, we all do other things as well as do the Dead Daisies, although that's our main thing. So with a band like this, you are going to have changes in lineup from time to time because different people are doing different things at different times. But we've pretty much been together now for a number of years, all of us here. And
and then Dean stepped in after Brian, right?
Yeah.
And so are you a permanent fixture for now?
Yeah, they're stuck with me.
You're stuck. Oh,
I have to pay him $20 for that.
nice.
I love him.
Well, guys, let's hear some tunes, and then we're going to have some fans ask you questions, and we're going to get into some Dallas stories.
Awesome.
All right, anyone have any questions?
I do.
Wait, hold on here. You got to have the mic.
All right, thank you. So, out of all your experience, you guys, surely you've seen the world several times over. Out of all your rock star experience, who's comfortable telling like the most debaucherous rock star moment you've ever had in your career?
Yeah, John.
Why does everybody look at me?
Well, you got the story. You got the story about hanging up on somebody that was.
That's not debaucherous. That's just stupidity.
It is, but
Or
it's interesting.
stupid.
okay.
Well, so
Your biggest rock star moment.
my biggest rock star moment.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I'll start this off. I'll go. This is for the kids. Is meeting Jimmy Page we were in Brighton, England. Me and Marco were playing with Whitesnake, and he goes, "Hey," and Gary Moore, who a lot of you guys might not know, but Gary Moore was a great guitar player, Irish, and he passed away, but he was one of my heroes, and he was supporting Whitesnake. So I was already nervous about that. But then Marco goes, "Hey, Doug, man, Jimmy Page is over on the side of the stage." I'm like, "Shut up, dude." And sure enough, after the show, Jimmy Page comes back to say hi to David. He's in the hallway. I open the door. I'm like, Jimmy, come hang out with us, man. Don't stand in the hallway. He goes, all right, And he ended up taking a fork and scratching his initials in my guitar.
Wow.
So
nice.
that's pretty cool.
Well, for me, I don't know. It's a toss-up between the Twins in Mexico City, Iowa, and Toronto, or no. I actually had an experience like Doug did when we were doing the Motley record. We were in Vancouver, and unbeknownst to me, the guys never said anything. They kind of played a joke on me, and unbeknownst to me, we were in this studio called Little Mountain. So they had 2 rooms, A room, B room. So our gear was being set up in the A room, and Tommy and Nikki said, hey, we should go. There's some band next door recording in B. We should go over there and we should introduce ourselves. We're going to be here for a while, and they'd probably get a kick out of meeting us. And I'm still kind of new, so I go, all right, whatever. So we leave the room, and they let me walk into the room first. So, and I was, my head was a little full of itself there, so I kicked the door in, and I walk in, and I just kind of scanned the room really quick. And I look down, like right here, and there's a guy with a guitar, and he just turned around and he sneered at me because he was in the middle of a solo. Kicked the door in, and I look at it, and everything just went slow motion. It was like, oh, Jesus, that's Joe Perry, right? So it's like Joe Perry, and then I'm looking around the room, and I see this guy coming at me. He's like, and he grabbed me. It was Steven Tyler, and he picked me up off the ground. My legs are dangling, and he's like, you're the one that's being ready to be shot out of the cannon, blah, blah, blah. So we do this. I couldn't say a word. So about a week later, I'm sitting there, and I'm in the studio, and I'm just noodling around, and I'm doing like, I'm just playing stuff, right? And I'm just playing Aerosmith songs, Zeppelin songs, and then I finally go like this. I go, I start playing Seasons of Wither. And right when the voice is supposed to start, I'm just sitting there in this room by myself. And as soon as the voice is supposed to start, I hear the voice. And I turn around and I look, and he's like, yeah, you're doing it wrong, brother. And he sat there, he jumped over the thing, and he tuned my guitar, and he told me the whole story, and we sat, and that was my thing. I literally sat on a couch and played the entire song of Seasons of Wither with Steven Tyler and sang it with him, and then I just, I basically dropped out of the music business for about 40 years after that. I'm like, I'm done.
Years.
I've done it all.
Oh, go ahead, bro.
Oh, I have the same thing that Doug had, only it was my 10-year-old son. I was playing with Journey, and my son's sitting behind me, and I think we were doing Don't Stop Believing, close to the end of the set. My son Kyle goes, Dad, Paul Stanley's on the side of the stage. And I did the same thing as Doug. Shut up, buddy. We're recording. Stop. This is filming him. Sure enough, we go down, to wait for the encore, and there's Paul Stanley. So yeah, I get on my hands and knees and I start bowing and stuff. So that's about it for me. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. Same thing.
And then Paul hired a restraining order.
A lot of things like that happened. When I first got to LA, I was, and I don't mind talking about it now. In '87, I got sober. And this is really kind of different kind of story. Because of sobriety, I ended up doing 12-step meetings. And in my first 9 months of sobriety, almost a year, I met Bill Ward, drummer for Black Sabbath. He was in sobriety, and we used to have this meeting on Mondays, and it was mostly musicians, a lot of celebrities, but you keep it hush, And Ozzy used to get dropped off too by Sharon. He'd be half there and half not. And so for me, it was like, it was very trippy because for a moment I felt like I was out of the business because I had to get out of the environment. I was asked to not get back into it. So this is what I believe. It was divine intervention. It was God saying, it's time for you to get back in. So after one meeting, a few meetings, Bill had heard about me. He knew who I was. Of course, I knew who he was, but you leave people alone. But he asked me, hey, Marco, I'm doing a solo album. He really downplayed it. I'm doing a solo album, and you're a great bass player. Would you like to come and play a few tracks on my album? I said, yes. One problem, I don't have a bass. I don't even own a bass. He said, don't worry, man. Just come. There'll be instruments there. Long story short, I showed up. He really downplayed it. And, you know, Jack Bruce is on it. Tim Bogart is on it. Ginger Baker was playing on it. Bill Ward, to name it. I'm name dropping, but that's what it was. Zach Wilde was on it. It was a major, major, major project. And for me, it was like coming back into the business, and it was like, wow, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I was blown away. I was really nervous, but, you know, I was able to play on 5 tracks on that album or so. And then he asked me to be part of that band. They never played live, unfortunately. But Ozzy was part of a few videos and all that. So what happened there, after I got blown away, is my name started getting thrown around, and that's how people called me and the whole thing. So, but it was a good event for me anyway. And now 30 years sober, by the way. September
awesome.
20th will be 31 years.
Congratulations.
If I make it a day at a time. Yeah.
Okay, for me, I'm also a pilot, and I fly air shows. And Iron Maiden, I'm from Australia. Iron Maiden was touring in Australia, and Bruce Dickinson wanted to come up to where I do my air show flying, and I took him up with me in a little fighter jet, and we went flying together. That was pretty cool.
That is cool. That is
I
very
actually
cool.
liked the Nicole Kidman story better.
Nicole Kidman story.
Do tell. Do tell.
And the crochet dress.
With nothing on underneath. Thank you. Love her.
No, I wasn't there. Somebody told me about it.
It's a family show.
Anybody else? Any more questions?
So, you know, just when you think...
Oh, he's
rock
got
and-
paper.
Go, brother.
This
You
guy's
go, bro.
prepared.
You know, just when you think rock and roll is dead, dying, or done, here comes the Dead Daisies to kick it back in the ass. And you guys are so underrated, really. I mean that because I've been seeing you guys, you know, progress from the beginning.
Who do we make the check out to?
Jam Magazine.
Thank you, bro.
Where do you see rock and roll going today? And here's a follow-up question. What advice would you give a young rock band that's, you know, maybe looking at you guys?
It's funny. John and I were talking to Deb about the new bands coming up, and I think we agreed on a lot of points. The fact being that you know, you have to believe in what you're doing. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. You have to really be in it with the fire, passion. You know, I have a few kids that are starting in the game, and I just don't see the fire yet. You know. That's what's going to make the difference between, you know, being rejected, like we all do, we all still do from time to time, and you just have to believe in what you're doing and you move forward. Even if it's an inch at a time, you move forward. You keep moving forward, you know. That's a big part. Rock and roll, in my opinion, personally, it's not dead. I haven't worked this much. I mean, these past 15 years have been, like, abundant. You know, the information that we all get, signs like that, flags going up that, you know, rock and roll is dead, is because of the business, you know, the labels, that part of it, the foundation of the business, the corporate music business is kind of gone, you know. So you still have people like us. I think we're all in it for life. This is what we're going to do. Right?
I think, you know, the thing of it is, that statement, I think everybody got in a huff about.
Yes.
Gene Simmons made it a couple of years ago. And I think it's a bit misleading, and I can't speak for Gene, but I think what he was talking about, because I mean, Kiss, we've been on tour with Kiss now the last couple of years.
Selling more tickets
and it's
than
selling
ever.
more tickets than ever. But I think what he was talking about is if you look at it, when I got into the business, a band would do a record, and they would go on tour. They'd go do a radio promo tour or whatever. And I think there's a lot more restrictions even on radio stations now than there was when I first got involved. So people were more apt, or DJs were more apt to play what they wanted to play, or what the audience, you know, they'd call in and request a song and different things like that. Now it's a little more structured. So it's really difficult for new bands, even guys like us that have been doing this for 30 or 40 years. It's very difficult because we're a new band to break into the radio thing. And then MTV, forget about it. It's just gone. They should just lose the M altogether.
Or start playing some videos again would be better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if they would
Off
just go
topic.
back to, I guarantee you, MTV would probably make bank if they went back to being a music television
Absolutely.
network, because people miss it. You know what I mean? Now, so I think the thing that Gene was talking about is the avenues of a band like us to let the fans know, like, hey, we're touring, and hey, we got this new record out. The two big ones like radio and MTV are gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So you have to kind of create your own thing. The fans are still showing up. Like, we're doing festivals. There's 100,000. We did a festival in Poland last year with an orchestra. I think there was like 150,000 people
more
there.
than that, yeah.
And they'll get
Massive.
1 million people over the weekend. So they're there. It's just the means of letting them know that, we're on tour, or the record is out, whatever is a little different. Videos, we're still doing videos, but instead of going to MTV with them, we have our own channel on YouTube, and it's been going pretty well. It's
moving on,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? But
yeah.
you got to figure a new way. Like, a lot of these newer bands now have to figure out how to utilize social media and YouTube instead of relying on the old methods. And
Well,
I
you
think
guys have
that's
an
what Gene was
Instagram
talking
TV,
about.
right? You have an Instagram TV.
And we're starting to do some things on that as well. You know what I mean?
Get on it, John. Come on. That's where it's at.
Yeah, I'm gonna start my own thing. East Coast Italian news program. It's called No Witness News.
So it's about doing the shows live. It's about doing this, what we're doing. So thank you so much for supporting that. But, it's you guys believe in it. You're attracted to it. Spread the word, and it'll continue. It's that simple. And now we have social media, right?
Yeah, it's social media, but it has kind of, in some ways, it's moving forward but backwards at the same time, because we're using all these new methods of promoting the band, like Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, but at the same time, we're going backwards to the old method of bands putting stuff out and just going and shaking hands and signing and taking photos, and just that, that old school method.
Elbow grease, man.
I remember reading books about Aerosmith, and they would say, well, they'd start out in Boston on their first record, and they toured a little bit, and that circle got a little wider, and then they did their second record, and it got a little wider, and they just kept going and going. By the time they did Toys in the Attic and Rocks, they were massive, and that's what it's kind of going back to.
But it's no different. I mean, a lot of people talk about the music business, how it's changed. Every business has changed. There's no business the same as it was even 5 years ago, let alone 15 or 20 years ago. So the challenges for a young band are the same challenges whatever they would be doing. So they might as well do rock and roll and take the challenges there if their heart's in it and they've got the passion
That's
for
it.
it.
That's it.
Awesome.
Well, what about Daisyland? I saw that on your website today. Can you give me a little insight on that?
Daisyland is basically a way for us to say kind of thank you to the fans. Every night when we do a show, we do a meet and greet at the end. We don't charge for it. We just sit down. We give the fans some posters and pics, and we sign some stuff, take some photos. And the Daisyland thing, we've been doing them now in conjunction with Guitar Center. Yeah. So later today, we're going to be at a Guitar Center before the show, and I guess it's open to the public, so anybody can come. And we sit down with the fans like this, and we do a little bit of a Q&A. We hang out, mingle with them, take some photos, sign some stuff, and then we'll play 5 or 6 songs acoustically for them, and just say it's just kind of our way of saying thanks.
Yep.
See, also for us, I mean, this is a journey, and we see ourselves as on a journey with the fans. It's not us, the band on stage, and the fans down there. It's all of us together on a journey, so to speak. Not his journey, but the journey.